Assassin's
You may have eaten.
Leave, you may be dead. Poison.
All right. It's Thursday, July 5th, 2018. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, bike shares and car shares and I guess scooter shares, because that's the thing.
I've never seen that.
There's more money in scooter shares than bike shares. Holy shit.
Why don't we make one?
Someone's trying to do it in New York, and the city's like, yeah, if we find your scooters, we're taking them.
Why don't we go work for them?
Because there's some shitty startup that'll pay you in stock.
Oh.
And the city's not going to let them do it.
Why not? Why
Well,
don't
what-
they make a deal like the bike shares did?
Yeah, because I feel like there's corruption involved. I feel like there's a lot of reasons why there's going to be no deal and nothing cool is going to happen. But also, those scooter share things seem to be really shady and or shitty.
Make a good one. Like Vespas.
No, I'm talking like the worst possible scooter.
That's what I'm saying, is they should be giving out real Vespas, the high-end ones.
Yeah, I mean, Zipcar was basically that with actual cars, and see where that got them.
Like, I could probably ride a Vespa. Give me like 10 minutes to practice, whatever. Doesn't seem hard.
All right.
If I go to Europe, I should get one.
Guess I got an opening bit about the fireworks. Wasn't it? I saw something about Macy's isn't doing it anymore.
Yeah, it's going to be... They'll find someone else to pay for it.
All right. Yeah, we didn't do a show on Tuesday because it rained.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we don't do shows in the rain.
Well, I was home all day, and then I was going to come down here, but it's like it was inconvenient to come down here with any method other than bicycle. And
Which is true. I don't blame you for that.
And then it's raining, and it's like, well...
Suppose I couldn't help but think of that Seinfeld where Jerry's trying to find out why
He
Newman
won't
didn't
deliver with the mail because it's raining.
Yep.
And it's
He's like, it was raining. Neither rain nor since the first one.
But on the GeekNights is not the U.S. Postal Service. We never made a claim that rain nor whatever will cause it.
Neither rain nor sleet nor PUBG update will keep us from making our appointed podcast.
Yeah,
but so we didn't do a show on Tuesday because of that. But rest assured, the next Tuesday show, we're talking about PUBG. Yeah. We're gonna go because we're playing PUBG.
We were supposed to do this episode about the Odyssey, which I said I was going to read while I was on the beach, and I read 0 words of it while I was on the beach.
And while I would like to say, come on, Scott, we were supposed to do the show on the Odyssey.
You read 0 words of it on the beach.
I read 1 or 2 words because I looked at it on my phone, and then I decided that was not the time, nor was it the place to read the Odyssey, and instead I closed my eyes and took a nap in the sun. The fireworks, though, yesterday from our rooftop, despite all these buildings built in my neighborhood.
Well, it's really just one building.
Yeah, well, they built all these other buildings. None of them are in the way of the fireworks.
Except the one that's been in the way for like 2 or 3 years.
Yep. So there's
2
like,
years?
I think there's 5 Macy's barges or 4 Macy's barges.
4.
We can see the fireworks from all but one of them.
You can see barges 1, 2, and 4. The building blocks barge number 3.
But it blocks it like 100%. It's almost funny. It's like it's censored.
Yeah, it's pretty much it. It's like there's this black bar over the third barge.
It's a good time, though, because I went running during the day because it's a holiday. I don't have to work. And I forgot that the 4th of July, the neighborhood we live in, or that I live in especially, becomes kind of a problem whenever there's a fireworks.
Well, remember when it used to be on the Hudson River? Then it wasn't a problem.
Nope.
I think it's time to go back to the Hudson River. We had East River. When it was Hudson River so many years in a row, and I was like, what the fuck? Why East River? Then they did East River so many years in a row. It's
Yep.
like, all right, we can go back now.
But, well, I guess the argument would
fuck
be...
Jersey still, but also...
I mean, my argument would be the East River, if you put them where they put them, the maximum number of humans can see them. You got 3 boroughs right there.
If you put them where they put them right now, the maximum number of New York humans can see them.
I think that's exactly what I said.
No, you said the maximum number of humans. On the other side... It would just be Jersey humans seeing them.
I'd stand by my point.
Okay.
But basically, everyone from the suburbs and everyone from like far out parts of New York come to our neighborhood to try to watch the fireworks. And people who live in New York know the deal. So like you show up and cops like check your bag and they don't let you carry alcohol. And
what's that? A Bort, Connecticut license plate? Turn your ass around.
Yep.
You ain't parking here.
But the funny thing is the suburban people, because they just, I guess there must be like some set of 10,000 people every year who cleverly think, wait, why don't I just drive to New York and go where the fireworks are going to be, and I'll see them real good and real close.
No,
And
I get here at the crack ass of dawn and stand in a place where they won't let you leave and you can't pee or poop unless you poop in your pants.
but more importantly, you find out that you're not allowed to park fucking anywhere in our neighborhood if there's fireworks.
Park way out and take a train in just like everyone else.
Yep.
Actually, if you took Metro North and then a subway, you'd probably be all right.
Yeah, actually,
You'd be
LIRR
you'd be as all right as any other New Yorker.
LIRR has a stop right there, too.
Yeah, I'm sure it's running.
I think that one only runs on weekdays that aren't holidays, though. It's a small, weird stop. It's a connection to the 7. Like, I want to use it to get on the train to go places.
Where are you going to go in Long Island?
Exactly. I could use it. There is a LIRR way to get to the
I used
airport.
the LIR for the first time in my life because we biked to the Jones Beach and then I had to get home.
I used it to visit Emily from Ronkonkoma, I think.
Why were you in Ronkonkoma?
Because I drove Lisa to be with her family.
Oh, okay.
And then I took the train into the city for a few days. Anyway.
You left your car in Ronkonkoma?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not taken into the city. But the funniest thing are all these people from out of the city drive in and they don't know what to do when the cops are like, yeah, every road over here is closed, pedestrians only. Oh, and you can't park anywhere because no parking during the holiday. And they don't know what to do. And I witnessed easily half a dozen separate cars of chubby, middle-aged, suburban white folk screaming at cops and demanding something to happen while the cops stand there. There's a particular New York pose a cop has where they either cross their arms or they have like one hand on their hip and they're not rolling their eyes. They're not actually rolling their eyes.
Nope.
But the eyes of the soul are rolled.
Well, I think it is if you're a New Yorker. It's sort of like Obey and, you know, with like they live, right?
Yeah,
if
yeah.
I look at them, I see their eyes going, whoa.
Yep.
But when a suburb person looks at them, they're not moving.
Yep. Basically, what the cop's body
They
language
got
is
to put
saying.
on the glasses.
I can translate the New York cop body language because that cop body language is, I'm waiting until you stop saying words, and then I'm going to say the exact thing I just said to you again, and we'll repeat this all fucking day because I'm getting paid overtime, and I literally do not care.
And I may put you in jail if I feel like it.
Yep.
I'm not too lazy.
But then they get clever, and they think, what if I just drive onto Roosevelt Island that's right next to the fireworks?
Yeah, when I biked home,
Yeah.
I went past Roosevelt.
Oh,
Island
you saw the
Bridge.
cop there?
There were many cops there. They
Yeah.
had a little barrack, and I saw actually a bunch of cars coming off the island.
Yeah.
So I think they may have let people on, but I don't know who. But it wasn't like, you know, a flood, right? It's like
Yep.
they let some number of people over
Oh, no. Yeah, I know what they do.
because at that moment, just after fireworks, there was cars coming, and much more than there are at any other time I've ever gone past.
So
there.
last year, I discovered the Roosevelt Island thing, and I asked the cop who was standing there because it was like it's 8 a.m. I was out for a run, and he basically said, "We don't let anyone on the island in a car unless they can prove they live there, or they give like an address and a phone number of someone on the island, and then unless there's a line, we'll call that number right then and see if they're lying, and otherwise they don't let them on." So, yeah, 4th of July, the fireworks were
All
good.
right, you give them my phone number and name, and then I'll pick up the phone and say, yes, I live on Roosevelt Island. Oh, yes, that is my friend.
Vandelay Industries.
That is my friend. Yes, my address is blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
Roosevelt Island.
I feel like New York cops, if you have enough of a hustle, they let you get away with it because the vast majority of people have zero hustle. Because if they had hustle, they'd be living here.
I don't think it's that they would be living here. I think it's that you know, there are people with
Game,
hustle.
respect, game.
There are people with hustle who don't live here.
True.
But there are zero people who live here without hustle.
That is true. With the possible exception of people who inherited their wealth.
Well, no, I guess if they inherited their wealth, they live here. They either get some hustle or they lose all that wealth to get giving out free CDs and Showtime
Every day I'm hustling.
every day.
So in the news, which is, if you haven't seen this story, it's tragic, fascinating. There's a lot going on here. But in case you're unaware, I guess you can introduce. This is your news, not
Right.
mine.
Okay. So in Thailand, there's this it's a soccer team, right?
I think it's a football team.
A football team. Okay, sure. So there's a boys soccer team and their coach. They went, you know, on a little field trip into this cave system, and it's like a touristy cave system you can go explore, which is totally
Like Mammoth Cave in the U.S.
Yeah, I totally want to go to an awesome cave like that. But they ran into a little problem, and let me explain this problem by telling you a story of when me and Rim were in Australia. We were walking around this island, which is a beach island, but it wasn't in season. And we see all these signs that are like, can't go here between these hours. And basically what happened is during those hours, the tide came in and it was impassable because the water came all the way up, covered the whole beach and covered even more of the land. So you couldn't walk that way unless you walked through the very thick brush of deadliness and probably poison spiders. You had to wait for tide to be low and go out so then you could walk along the beach, right? So they went into this cave system and the tide didn't come in, but
the monsoons did.
The monsoon came in and the rainy season came in while they were deep in the cave. And it basically, they can't get out of the cave because it flooded and it won't unflood for months.
Now, no one was people weren't sure if they were alive, like what the deal was.
They were just missing. They were like, oh, but they knew they went in the cave. They just didn't know. And they're just like, well, they went in the cave and they didn't come back. Oh, shit.
Yep. So basically, the government sent a bunch of military cave divers. We'll get back to cave diving.
Right.
In a
This is like what, 12 or 13 people, right? So
yeah.
You could send a big old search party. It's worth spending. It's not like one missing person.
Yeah. The
right?
U.S. sent 30 experts, including 17 members of the Air Force. Australia,
right. Japan,
China, Myanmar, Laos,
right,
all sent people.
Because all these expert people, who are experts at diving and such, they don't really have anything better to do on the whole earth right now, and they're experts at this, so...
And if they succeed, they're going to save a whole bunch of kids' lives. So.
Right, so basically, the Thai Navy SEALs, from what I heard, went in, and they found them in this tiny little area of the cave, way fucking deep, completely trapped by water, and it's almost impossible to get them out.
Now... Part of the reason why this story is interesting is that the divers are there, bringing them food, and all the armchair internet people, everywhere there's comments, everywhere people talk about it, always seem to ask the exact same questions. Well, if people dived in, why don't they just put scuba gear on these kids' faces and dive them out? Or
these people don't know anything about scuba diving.
Yep. So scuba diving is actually a super technical, pretty dangerous thing to do.
That's why I will never do it.
Cave diving is insanely more deadly than scuba diving.
Right.
Cave
It's like the
diving is one of
difference between
most dangerous things you can fucking do.
Skydiving would be like scuba diving, right? And
wingsuiting.
Yeah, wingsuiting with no parachute is like cave diving.
It's weird that I know a lot about cave diving because of one specific thing. FARC, one of my favorite internet community other than the Front Row Crew forum community, is obsessed with cave diving because there's a lot of really crazy stories of cave divers.
The only thing you could do more dangerous than cave diving would be to do cave dive welding.
Dive into a cave and weld something down there.
Yep.
I mean, I guess someone dived into this cave to stick this fancy metal sign into the wall. I doubt they welded it down there, though.
I'm pretty sure they didn't dive in the cave to do that because it probably wasn't flooded at the time they did it.
This image is underwater.
Yeah, it's underwater now, but
it's always underwater.
Oh, okay.
This image is a famous sign from a site that kills a lot of cave divers, and the sign basically says it's this really good sign with this skeleton, and it's just prevent your death, go no farther, and then it's just there's nothing beyond this sign worth dying for, which is true because if you go back there,
it's just rocks and water.
Yep,
and
dead people.
Yes.
A lot of the famous cave divers who have died.
There's skeletons with scuba tanks in a praying position.
Yep. But so a lot of famous cave divers have died trying to find and bring out the bodies of their friends who were also cave divers who died.
This is how you know something is dangerous, right? That's why I was talking about skiing being dangerous, because people who are pros, Olympic skiers, will severely injure themselves skiing, right? That tells you it's dangerous. So if professionals at a thing hurt themselves doing a thing, that is not something that a non-professional should even go anywhere near.
So
that's like if the fire eater burns his mouth on a torch. You should not try to become a fire eater.
So the reason why they can't just scuba dive these boys out is that it would probably kill every one of them. Cave diving is such a difficult and technical thing.
So they tried pumping the water out, but the water's coming in too fast, so that doesn't work.
Yep.
They tried, they were thinking about drilling a hole in there, but the area that they're in is so tiny that drilling in there might just collapse the whole thing and kill them all too.
And there's a basically a mountain on top of them. Like there's
Yes.
no good way to drill in.
Drilling in would be super, super hard. They're looking to see if there's a natural opening because they found a natural opening, but it goes into a different area that wouldn't help you unless you also scuba dived.
Yep.
So
So they're bringing the kids supplies right now, and they're trying to train.
it's a
them.
miracle that none of the professional diving people have, messed themselves up while bringing the supplies.
Yep. I've read.
They
a couple
brought
of,
like a doctor in there and stuff.
I've read a couple of statements that even these experts said this is an extremely difficult and technical cave dive.
Yeah, it's like when they go in, there's times where they basically can't see anything. They don't know which way is up, which way is down, or anything, and they have to keep swimming underwater with the scuba tank attached to you.
Yep.
And make it through somewhere. And some of the spaces they have to go through, like I've gone in like archaeological digs where there's like certain parts you have to crawl through, and it like the place you're crawling through is literally the size of a tiny human body, and you basically it's one person at a time in a straight line going through there.
Yep.
And they're scuba swimming, diving through such a space that is narrow enough for just one person.
Yep. And things will happen like.
Which was fine when there was no water in there because the kids probably crawled through and it was way fun. But once it was filled with water, there's no way through there.
Yep. And it's not just a danger to the kids. Like you might say, well, if the floodwaters start rising, maybe you got to go for it. There's a good chance that they try to bring those kids out, it'll kill some number of the professional divers.
Yep.
Because the way cave diving accidents tend to work is if one of your people has a problem, pretty much they're just dead. But if they're too close to you, they'll probably drag you down with them.
Mm-hmm. You can't just do something like attach a rope to the kids and pull them through either. That's not gonna
Yep,
work.
they're going to have to learn cave diving and scuba diving pretty quickly in a dark cave.
Assuming all these kids even know how to swim.
Yep.
You don't even know if they know how to swim.
Granted, at least most of the swimming they would need, there's not that much swimming they need to do.
Yeah.
But they'd have to learn
it's sort of
things
a
like-
prerequisite for diving, though.
They'd have to learn
at
things
at
like
least intermediate swimming.
like how to use the foot flappers. I don't dive.
Yep.
I don't know any of that stuff. I avoided scuba
So
diving.
I actually did come up with one idea that's not crazy, right?
All right.
So here's my
Arms
idea.
are crossed, eyes not rolling.
All right. So here's what you do. You make a tunnel out of like a plastic tube that's watertight.
Someone posted that exact suggestion
And
on
then you
Fark.
pump the water out of the tunnel, and then they can crawl through the tunnel.
Yeah, I read that exact. So here's a separate question for you. Let's say someone is in like a 10-foot deep pool, like not a super deep pool, and somehow their foot gets stuck on the bottom of the pool.
Okay.
Could you just take a tube down and stick it in their mouth so they could breathe through it?
No, because they just spit all the water out.
So let's say then you pump all the water out of that tube. The tube is pulled down, no water in it. It has a little cap that's edible. The kid puts it in his mouth, bites the cap off, and now it's just a clean path to air. Would that help the kid?
Yeah, I think so.
No, it actually wouldn't.
Why not?
Because the water pressure difference and the tube length combined would make it very difficult for the kid to draw enough air into his lungs to not just suffocate anyway.
See, here's the thing I'm saying. It's like you're thinking that the other end of the tube is in the water. I'm like, no. The place the kids are in now has air. They're in an air place.
Scott, how many kilometers deep do you think they are?
Very many.
How are you going to make a tube long enough to get through any of these sections?
It's crazier than drilling the hole. I mean, it's less crazy than drilling the hole.
I think it's
and
more
it's less,
crazy.
It's less crazy than making him scuba dive.
Also, it would have to be rigid and unable to be penetrated by a crawling kid times 13 plus a bunch of adults.
Yes.
It's impossible. There's no material science would not allow this to work.
You could do it piece by piece too. You just got to attach them one at a time carefully.
No, that wouldn't work. There's no way for that to work.
One end of it is where the kids are out in the air. The other end is on the air, the other side, and then you can pump all the water out. And then you can start crawling through.
Why not just pump the water out of the cave? It's the same amount.
You can't because water's coming into the cave. That's why you need the tunnel.
Yeah, I don't think you could build that tunnel. I think it would take months to build that tunnel.
It would be hard, yeah. I mean, but it's going to be hard no matter what the options are.
Also, I don't think you could build that tunnel with the constant flooding.
It wouldn't, because you don't pump it until the end once it's complete.
So how are you going to... So, Scott, some of those passages are really narrow. How is someone going to install the tunnel?
Carefully.
Nah, ain't going to work. So, in some other news, this is a totally sort of fun aside thing. And this isn't rigorously researched or anything, but...
Inflatable tunnel. It starts as a string and then you inflate it.
How much pressure do you think you need to inflate it enough?
A lot, but you know.
And how thick does it need to be so that it doesn't get punctured?
Listen, we got to invent it.
Yeah, I think we might just invent like a teleporter or something first.
I don't think a teleporter is a little harder.
Or a brain scanner. We just scan the kids' brains and then leave them there.
That's
and
even
just
harder.
Print new copies of the kids with all their memories up to that point and just tell them they survived.
Just nuke them out, and then we can drill a hole.
I feel like that might make it collapse.
Maybe.
On the kids.
Maybe.
So, in some other sort of side news, if you're not aware of the Dada movement of art, a big part of it is that it came out of the sort of like artistic reaction to the horrors of World War I, itself a product of the logic and reason of the middle-class capitalist society that birthed it. And I don't want to get into like the history of Dada or anything in detail here.
It seems like you do, though.
I do, but I don't want. I want to, but that's not what this show is about. And also, if we go for more than say 5 minutes, I run out of knowledge and I'm in over my head and I will drown and the internet
Please,
will know.
someone who knows about art history, come down on Rim who is over his head and is drowning in a tunnel with no time.
So this is a tweet that has a nice thread behind it where basically there's some article that was like, why is millennial culture and humor so surreal and dark and weird and meaningless? And I'm just going to read this tweet. This is called Dada, and it first emerged in the wake of the First World War out of the belief that a society that could create such a horror had no intrinsic value. Replace First World War with modern capitalism, and there you go. So this is an argument, and the thread gets into a lot more details, and I actually Googled around a little bit, and this is not a new revelation, and this is being discussed in art circles currently by people way smarter than us, about how the weird millennial culture and internet bullshit that I like, for example, all that nonsense, is very reminiscent of the Dada movement and has many parallels in terms of the things happening in society that might be driving it. So this is my defense of potato knishes.
This is so Rim because it is a post hoc explanation, which is the key aspect of Rimism.
Well, most explanations are post hoc because the world, quantum theory in the
that
world.
in and of itself is a post hoc explanation of post hoc explanations, which is meta-Rimism.
Yeah, because you don't even have any free will. You're just rationalizing things you already did. So your entire consciousness is nothing but a post hoc rationalization of things you did probably randomly.
And that is not just one, see, post hoc explanations are a core tenet of Rimism, but that is the core tenet of Rimism.
But the parallels are very interesting because honestly, the current state of late-stage Western capitalism is pretty fucked, and we're really starting to see that it's going to destroy society.
Can't we have an ism without a late stage? It just keeps working.
I mean, so far, late-stage democratic socialism is people mostly have health care.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so far, so good. All right, I think that killed enough time. But anyway, things of the day. So this was making the rounds. If you didn't see it, it is utterly delightful. But basically, in, I think, Edmonton, this couple, a man and a woman, try to rob a convenience store. And it goes hilariously poorly.
It goes way bad.
Like it looked, this
The thing is,
looks-
the cops are doing a bad job too.
Well, because there's only one cop, and this cop is really trying to deal with the situation without inflicting undue harm or killing anyone.
But he's also trying to arrest these people forcibly.
Yeah, I feel like this cop honestly should have used more force earlier.
Yeah, just whack him on the head with a stick.
But
That's the problem. Is that in the UK, the cops got sticks. They just whack you on the head.
he has a taser too, it looks like.
I thought it was a gun. And that's
think
why
that was a
I
taser.
thought the reason he wasn't shooting it because he was going to kill somebody. If it was a taser, you should have shot it right away.
Yeah, well, in this case, probably. But basically, if you watch this video without knowing it's real, you would assume it's from a TV show. Like, that is the level
Yeah,
of
that
humor.
TV show, it is from a TV show. It's called Cops.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's still on the air.
But it keeps alternating between the dude in the front having this really hilarious standoff with this derp cop, and meanwhile in the back, his girlfriend is trying to sneak out, and has multiple attempts at sneaking out of the building, all of which end in disaster.
Oh, I remember the one that I saw, which is better than yours, is the one that is mashed up with Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, I did see that one. That was real good.
That's the one that's so you should post that one because it's better than yours.
So my thing of the day is that this video, you've probably seen it. It really made the rounds. My thing of the day is that people are mashing this up with all sorts of different music.
The Metal Gear one's the best one.
The Metal Gear one's the best one. Yakety Sax is the obvious one.
I haven't even. I only thought of a Yakety Sax one. I didn't actually see one, but
I did see the Yakety Sax one.
I'm sure it exists.
And the Lupin the Third one works surprisingly well. So yeah, you can enjoy this. So what do you got for me?
So you know, there are Jews of a lot of different levels of observancy, right? There are people who are only barely Jewish, and there's people who are very, very, very Jewish, right? And the ultra-Orthodox and Hasidim in their neighborhoods around the world, some of their neighborhoods, are known to be unfriendly to outsiders. So if they were to see you in public, disobeying their laws, I mean, perhaps you were a woman not wearing enough clothes, or you come into their neighborhood, but you're not the person that they like.
I've been yelled at by people in a certain neighborhood in Brooklyn biking there during the Sabbath.
They will do things to you, like some of them will throw tomatoes at you, right? This is a real thing that happens. So here is an animated GIF, and the title of the animated GIF is Ultra-Orthodox Men Drenching Sweet Innocent Girl in Bike Lane. Because, there's a sweet innocent girl biking through their neighborhood.
And that is exactly what this video is.
That is exactly what this video
100%,
is.
100%. This is a good video.
Mm-hmm.
And you should watch it, and you may enjoy it. In the Meta Moment, the Book Club book, probably not next Thursday, but the following Thursday.
Because there isn't going to be a GeekNights next Thursday.
Yep.
I think with 2 weeks, I think I can get this done.
I think it's not a long book. No. We are going to talk
I'm
about...
most of the way done already.
Yep. Emily Wilson's modern translation of The Odyssey by Homer. It's fantastic. We keep talking about it. Just read it. You could probably start it today and finish it
before us.
Yes. Yeah. It's not long. And unlike the translation you read in high school or middle school...
It's much more readable.
It's readable and...
It's not full of ye old fancy talk.
It's enjoyable directly and at face value, even if you do zero analysis and don't worry about any of the metaphor.
And also, the foreword gives you all the analysis you possibly need.
Yep.
To where I don't even know what we're going to talk about other than just repeating what the foreword says.
Yep. I think I'm mostly going to talk about how my opinion of Odysseus himself has changed.
Yeah.
And also all the slave stuff.
Yep.
And
but that's in the forward.
Yeah, that is in the forward, but it really hits home when you're reading it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially the Nausicaa bit, because she's got a lot of slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we are going to be at PAX West.
Woo-hoo.
If you didn't buy a badge for it, well, that sucks.
Good luck.
I'm pretty sure only Monday is not sold out.
No. I mean, if you live close, buy one of those Mondays.
Yeah, Monday is totally available. So tell you what.
If you don't live close, do not buy one of those Mondays.
If you live within, like, a couple hours trip.
If you can drive there to Seattle.
Or take, like, a train there.
Are there trains that goes? Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, there's an Amtrak that goes between Seattle and Portland. I've used it multiple times.
Okay.
It's actually really, really pleasant and actually really cheap.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Monday at PAX West, you might think, oh, why do I want to buy the last day? It's short, right? It still goes to like 6 or 7 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
It still has an expo hall.
And it has a Omegathon finale.
Yeah, it has a thing that only happens on that day. So PAX West is coming up in 56 days, 17 hours, 29 minutes, and Dateline this episode right now, 3 seconds.
And then after that, there's going to be other conventions the rest of the year, like PAX Unplugged, Anime NYC.
MagFest right at the beginning of the new year, and then right from there into PAX South, and then the cycle starts again.
Coming up really soon, though, in New York City, when is it? It is the 14th of July, so not this weekend, but the next weekend after that, is going to be the Game Developers of Color Expo in New York City, in the Schomburg Center, I think, right? That's where it is?
That's where it was last year?
Yeah, I think it's the same place it was last year.
It's a really great con.
It was worth it to go for a few hours, just like we went last year, and I saw, like, of all the the places or people showing off, video games and indie games that they made, that was the best one that I've seen. Way better than those Sheep's Meows and stuff. I saw real good shit there, so it's worth it if you're in New York City.
That's Josephine. I think there's pictures of all our friends here.
Okay. But yeah, if you're in New York City, it is worth it to go there for a few hours during the day to check out the awesome games there.
Yep. And also, I'm not saying you should do this. This is not a Geek Nights thing or anything, but unless it's like pouring rain, me and Scott and Emily and a bunch of our friends are going to do the Harlem Valley Rail Ride, which we talked about
We
last
did
year.
it last year. It was the best bike ride I went on last year.
It's way fun. And there is a version of it for literally all levels of skill. If you can make a bike go forward without falling over, you could do one of these rides.
Yeah, what's the smallest one? 28 miles?
28 miles, something like that?
Yeah, that's going to take a slow person like my mom like 4 or 5 hours.
23, 33, 45,
worst.
57, 72.
At worst.
80,
Probably 3 hours for a normal person.
100, and the I'm not doing it 100. There's 2 centuries. One of them is just...
I'm doing baby 100.
I'm either going to do baby 100 or 72, because I don't know
We
if I
did
want
72 last year, though.
Yeah, I might do it again. It was real fun.
I'm going to do baby 100, and if for some... it's like, I can definitely finish it, no problem. I'm like... No,
But there is the escape hatch.
Right. It's like, but the only question is, it's not will I finish it? It's will I finish it in time? Because I don't huff and puff. So...
I huff and puff.
If I don't finish it in time, I'll just hop on the escape vehicle.
I think mostly it's I got to decide.
I'll probably make it at least 80, whatever the time limit is.
Yeah, I could do the 80 instead of the 72.
I think the problem is, it's like only 8 miles more. Why would I do 72? It's because the 80 has way mad crazy hills compared to the 72. That's why. Those 8 miles are hellish 8 miles they tack on.
The regular 100 is probably easier than that 80.
That's why I'm doing the regular baby 100. The leg saver 100 is what they call it.
But the cool thing is basically what we do is we take like Metro North up there with our bikes and other people drive or whatever, and we just camp for free just in this park in town.
And you can go up as early as Friday night now. They changed it.
I think we're going to get there Saturday morning now.
I think Saturday
like
morning.
Saturday
Last
late.
time we went there Saturday afternoon, that was too late.
Yep. I feel like Saturday late morning is the perfect time to get there.
Yep. Hang out, go to sleep early, get a good rest. That way you can wake up early and bike right away.
Yep. And if it's you, me, and Emily and our friends, we should eat at the more expensive tapas place.
Who knows if it's any good, though?
I looked at some reviews. It seems like it's good. It seems like the only complaint people had was that it's way expensive compared to the cheapo Italian place we ate at. It's one of those places that, like, New Yorkers take the train up for a nice bed and breakfast weekend, and that's the place they all eat.
It's a little town that has nothing going on.
Yeah, that's why I don't want to get there the day
It's a
before.
2-restaurant town.
Because I don't think there is a second day's worth of stuff for us to do.
There is biking and enjoying the nature. That's what you do up there.
Yeah, but if we're already going to bike and enjoy the nature,
You
an
just do it.
additional day.
You just do it extra.
Yeah, I guess we just bike around
There's
some
a
more.
lake there you could swim in.
Yeah. Didn't
It's
seem
probably
like...
mad full of
Oh,
water.
and there's something new this year. There's going to be a hot shower truck.
Whoa.
Last year I didn't get a shower till I got home.
That's right.
All right. Oh, we got like 12 people watching this show.
Why? Go away, 12 people.
Modern day version of Timmy trapped down in the well. The Metal Gear Solid one is better. Yeah.
Are you
that is the
saying?
best
Are you
one.
saying that Lassie can go and rescue the Thai kids? Because if so, I saw Lassie the other day.
What was the one that kids now who listen to Geek Nuts too young to remember? Baby Jessica? Was that the one?
What?
You don't remember that kid who fell in the well?
No.
Yeah, Baby Jessica.
What was the show?
How do you not remember this? This was like in the mid to late 80s. This was like the news cycle.
I never remember that. Do you remember there was a show that was like Lassie, but it was a dolphin?
Flipper?
Oh, that's what that was?
Yeah, I watched that.
Okay. I didn't watch it, but I saw it was one of those shows that was either ending or starting next to one of the shows I did watch.
Well, because it was on Nick usually.
Yeah, but I think it was in near the Toonami slot before Toonami existed.
Nah.
I think it was Voltron then Flipper, and I was like, nope.
Oh man, you saw that one of my favorite vocalists in the world died.
Who was that?
Nick. That guy.
Really?
He's gone.
I didn't.
The
know.
guy who did all the Nickelodeon jingles from the height of Nickelodeon.
I didn't even think of that person.
I was gonna. I think someone even I think someone posted in our forum about it.
I didn't see that.
Pretty sure. Anyway, I was gonna make that my news next week because I didn't want to talk about it yet on the show. It's real sad.
What was that guy's life like after?
I know nothing about him except for those jingles.
Maybe he was a bad person. What do you know?
I was gonna look at the way the internet reacted to his death. I feel like he's not a bad person, but I have not done the research yet. Anyway, let's see. I got a million newses here about the thing we're gonna talk about. All right. So you might hear this word, like Silicon Valley tech bros use this word a lot. if anyone ever tells you that something is
This
related,
is already old hat. I don't think they use this anymore.
the sharing economy.
Yeah.
So they still
Now
use
they
this
only
term.
care about coins.
Yeah. Well, the crypto coin sharing economy. But sharing economy is one of those phrases like cryptocurrency, where if the person who says the phrase is not making fun of it, they're probably a person to avoid.
Yes.
And we're not going to talk about the like intrinsic problems of the sharing economy, like why Uber is evil, because you should know by now. We talk about it kind of often. But
We got a whole thread in our forum about Uber and how evil they are.
yeah, so we're not going to dive into
And how the other Uber-like companies are not as evil, but are also evil.
Yep. We're not going to get into how all these things just exist and not have to pay people a living wage or give them health benefits. And it's all a giant scam.
Because that doesn't have to do with the sharing part. That has just to do with being an evil business.
Yep. So we
You could
wanted
do
to,
those things with or without having a sharing business.
So there's been a bunch of news on the coasts and in the middle of the country too, weirdly, about all these bike sharing, scooter sharing, car sharing things that are not Uber and Lyft, though some of them are becoming Lyft.
Right.
Or Uber.
Well, the idea is that, back in the day, you would, if you needed a thing, you could buy that thing. You could rent that thing.
Yep.
You could lease that thing, right? You could borrow that thing from a friend. But the sharing idea is like, well, a company owns the thing, and you rent it, but you rent it for a very short time. And actually what you do is you buy some sort of membership, and then you can use that thing whenever. And it's like, well, that's what a gym is. And that is exactly what a gym is.
Yeah.
It's a room full of machines, and you pay money on a monthly basis, and then you are free to use those machines as you wish. Except here, instead of having one, place full of stuff, you just have the stuff all over the fucking place.
Now, the theory of that I'm actually really okay with, partly because...
As long as it's a non-consumable good. So it's like you could have, for example...
Well, yeah, you don't want to have a straw sharing service.
Right. It's like we have,
Hypodermic needle sharing service.
for example, we have laundromats, but you go to the laundromat and you pay per use. What if there was a chain of laundromats and you could wash all the clothes you wanted at any one of the laundromats as long as you pay a monthly fee?
I would be all over that.
I know. Why don't we start that business?
Maybe we should.
But I mean, basically, people have used this model for basically transportation mostly. Bicycles, cars.
Yep.
Bicycles,
But if you think about it, like
cars.
go back to the gym example. In the suburbs, what people tend to do is just buy everything they want because they don't want to share it with people, and they want.
And they have places to keep shit.
Yep. And I've noticed that there seem to be two reasons. Half the reasons people do this are they don't want other people touching their stuff, and they don't want to interact with those people. But the other half
The
is...
reason you live in a suburb with a house that's far away from the street is they don't have to interact with other human beings because you're antisocial and bad.
So you got 100 houses, and in those houses are 100 treadmills and 100 weight machines.
Yeah, you can tell if you look at a neighborhood, if you see houses that are up on the street and are close to each other and have porches, that's a friendly neighborhood where people talk to each other and have good times. If you see a neighborhood where all the houses have gates or have real long driveways and big-ass front yards and no porches, that's a bad neighborhood where people are not friendly and don't talk to each other.
Yep, but I like the idea. Like in the city, like I could buy exercise equipment. That'd be stupid.
Where are you going to keep it?
Where am I going to put it? This apartment's tiny. So instead, people in cities just share things with each other, and usually you have to charge a reasonable amount of money, or else people will trash
now
them.
you have to have one, group that maintains all the somethings.
Yep. But there are some problems with it because if you have sharing things that are free or cheap enough, what tends to happen
The
in the US
tragedy
at
of
least,
the commons.
things just get trashed.
Tragedy of the commons.
Yep.
So the general business model, at least for gyms, is that people are paying this monthly fee, but you've only got so many treadmills at your gym. If everyone who paid came all at the same time to use a treadmill, you wouldn't have enough treadmills. You'd be in deep shit. The reason it works is because you have people who pay who never fucking come, but they keep paying, and you make a lot of money that way because you don't need to buy that many treadmills. You don't need to rent that much commercial real estate.
Yep.
Your expenses are way low compared to the number of people who join and keep paying and forget to cancel, and they join and they use it a whole bunch when they first join in January for New Year's, their resolution, and then the whole rest of the year they pay, but in July only hardcore people are there, and most of the gym is empty, and you're totally chilling.
And it's always funny because there's a gym in my building, and it's pretty much exclusive to me because like no one's ever down there. Like,
Everyone in this building is technically in their rent paying for the maintenance and upkeep and equipment in that gym, and Rim is the only one using it.
Except every year,
So the building makes a lot of money by having it.
Emily uses a lot too, but every year, for about 3 weeks after New Year's, I can't go down there because it's completely full of people. And by February, they're all gone, and it's my private gym again. I think maybe 4 or 5 times ever, other than January, have I gone down there, and there wasn't a treadmill to use right when I wanted to use it.
Do they have a fake not moving bicycle?
They got one of those. I actually use it kind of often in the winter.
That's the only gym equipment worth using.
I like lifting weights. I lift a lot more weights than I used to.
I don't know. I don't need to lift anything.
You feel a lot better if you lifted some weights.
I can lift my mouse.
So anyway, here's the deal.
Off the
in New
mouse
York
pad.
City, we had a thing called City Bike, which I signed up for, and so did Emma. Like we all used it.
I didn't sign up. I didn't sign up for it until they put it right next to my house some months ago, and then I signed up for it.
Yep, and you might ask,
Like less than a year ago.
Rim and Scott, why did you use this thing? You
And
own
actually,
bikes.
my new job gives me free membership, but I can't take advantage of that until my current membership expires.
And it's actually already become a very, very critical part of New York's commuting infrastructure.
Even though I own 2 bicycles for 1 person, I use City Bike a lot.
Yep. And the reason I use it, though I don't have a membership right now, but I'm thinking about getting it again now that there's one right outside my building.
The one been outside your building longer than been outside my building.
True, but when I first signed up, it cost less than half what it costs now.
Ah.
So I signed up because it was so cheap.
It is
Of
still so
course.
cheap.
Yeah, but it is more than double what I originally paid.
It's like 100 something a year.
Yeah, I used to pay
I
like...
pay more than that for the subway for a month.
True.
And I probably use City Bike more than I use the subway this month, but I decided I'll just keep paying the MTA the full price every month because I'll subsidize it. I can afford to, whatever.
And also, I like the freedom of never...
It will have, yeah, and never
I can
having
use the
to
subway
worry.
whenever I want.
Yeah.
But when they originally made the bike share in New York City, this City Bike thing, the deal is that the bikes are awful. They're like 55 pounds and made out of steel.
They vary a little bit. They're not all exactly the same. Some of them have different shifters and stuff like different lights. There's a little bit of variance, but for the most part, they're all bikes where there's no top bars. You know, so you can step in real easy. You adjust the seat. You can't take the seat post out. All right. They all have about 3 speeds inside of one of those internal gearing. What are those called again?
Oh, the hub gears?
Hub gears. They all have at least 3 speeds on a hub gear, right? They're heavy as hell. The tires are enormous. They're really, really slow and really hard. But you know what? I can bike it over the bridge. I can bike it anywhere. It's like I can ride it pretty much anywhere I need to go.
The worst bike.
It'll get you there.
The worst bike, the shittiest scooter, is still infinitely better than walking.
Yep.
So when they originally did it, we got a lot of there was a lot of resistance to it, mostly from all the garbage scam companies that rent bikes to tourists in Central Park.
Yep.
And all the bike shops who are worried that people won't buy bikes anymore and won't rent bikes from them.
Well, they were all wrong.
Actually, I saw something something like 30% of all bike shops in New York went under since City Bike opened.
Oh, well, deal with it.
Yeah, I don't get even the bike shop right here is gone now.
Is it because of City Bike, though?
That bike shop, I think it's gone because this neighborhood gentrified very rapidly.
Yeah.
And you can't make a lot of money with a bike shop.
No. I mean, there's the Ben's Best Deli out in Forest Hills went out of business, and they blame the bike lane on Queens Boulevard.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, so here's the thing, right, with that. Let's say
they're right. I don't care.
Right. It's like
bike lane more important than any business.
Right, exactly. It's like, all right, if it's probably not true that the bike lane put you out of business. The reason your awesome Jew deli, which has amazing food that I want to eat, went out of business is because that food is expensive and people don't really eat pastrami sandwiches every day like they used to, right? But let's say it was the bike lane that put you out of business. Well, guess what? Since 2015, when they put that bike lane in, Queens Boulevard, previously known as Boulevard of Death, has had 0 people die. 0. Which means putting in that bike lane absolutely, undisputably saves somebody's life at least once.
Yep.
Probably more than once. Which means if you're complaining about that bike lane putting you out of business, what you're saying is that we should murder people to keep Ben's Best Deli open, in which case I say, all right, let's murder Ben's Best owner's children to keep Ben's Best Deli open. That'll save him the money he needs to spend on their education.
He might be like, okay, win-win.
Well, then okay. But I can't argue with someone who's that evil. But you see where I'm going.
Yeah, but what was interesting is that City Bike was sort of aimed at tourists, and the reason why they doubled the price and changed the business model
is because tourists did not. Oh, I do see tourists using it.
I do see tourists using it, but not enough. Almost everyone who used it was like me.
And New Yorkers are using it and paying the annual fee. It's like 100-something annual fee. City Bike as much as you want.
And I think I can describe the 3 reasons people use it. Reason number 1, they're trying to get cross town.
Yep. If you don't know, in New York, the public transportation, which even though it runs 24/7, and even though we complain about it, still is way better than other places to the point where you can actually use it, doesn't really go left and right. It only
in Manhattan, at least.
In Manhattan, it mostly goes up and down. So if you're on First Avenue and you want to get to 10th Avenue, you can find a bus or walk or use a city bike. And city bike is absolutely the fastest way in no matter what.
Yep.
No matter where you're standing, a city bike is the fastest.
The second reason is to get to places the subway doesn't serve that well.
Right. So you're somewhere out in Brooklyn.
Or like Kips Bay or something.
Yeah, Kips Bay's a good one, right? And it's like, well, you need to get to the train. Well, the 6 train's pretty close, but you got to walk to the 6 train. It's going to take you like 15 minutes. But if you city bike to the 6 train, that'll take you like 2 minutes.
Yep.
And so you can get to a place in Manhattan or even anywhere in New York where the train's nearby, but not super nearby. Like even my apartment, I could walk to the train in under 10 minutes. I can city bike to the train in less than 2 minutes.
Yep.
So if I use it just to go to the train.
And the third reason I think a lot of people use it is when there's a subway problem, suddenly you see people running out of the subway station and all the city bikes are gone.
Last night when I went home from the fireworks, right? So I went out of the apartment and I felt some drops. And I checked, and they were not air conditioner random water drops. It was rain. So I said, well, it's raining, so I'm not going to city bike, which is usually the fastest way home from here. And I saw that the N train up above was messed up. There was a fire, and I saw a message on my phone that said it was messed up. So I went, and anyway, if it's raining, the bus is better because the bus goes right to my apartment and then doesn't mean I don't have to walk in the rain.
Yeah.
So remember I said that the train is like 10 minutes walking, right? I don't want to walk 10 minutes, get wet. So I went over to the bus, and a bus came. It was 100% full. I couldn't get on it. The bus driver closed the doors.
Yeah.
I tried to get on the bus. The bus driver was like, no more. So then another bus does not come. It just doesn't come. People are packing it up in the station, hiding under the scaffold, and no buses come. None. And cabs come, and I'm not paying one of those.
Nope.
Not for no reason. And then I realized, wait a minute, it's not fucking raining. So I walk to the nearest city bike, and I pull it out, and it's got a fucking flat tires front. The front tire is flat, and I was like, God damn it. So I put it back in, and I try to push the repair button to which will lock that bike in place so no one can accidentally take it, and will let them know that it needs fixing. And the repair button's broken. So luckily that dock had one other city bike at it that was not broken. And I took it and went home. And without that, I would have had to like walk all the way down 21st Street to get home. So
the moral of it is why we talk about city bikes so much is that in our experience as New Yorkers, it is 100% a success story. It is actually one of the better things that's happened to transportation in the city in a long time.
Right.
It is so important now that a city bike outage it is as dire to some people as a subway problem or a bus problem.
Yeah, I mean, like there are times where all like, okay, I go to the N train, it's busted. Well, if I can get to where Rim lives, I can get on a different train, like a R train or whatever, right? But I got to get there, and everyone else is already running for the bus.
Yep.
It's like,
also, do you know how many people like I know who city bike is a critical part of their commute? Usually they take a ferry because we have a new ferry system too, and all the ferry docks because they're on the water, kind of out of the way. There's a million city bikes, and people take the ferry in, take the city bike because you don't want to take your own bike.
The ferry does not go. The ferry goes near my apartment. It does not go near my work. So if I were to take the ferry. On the other end, how do I get to work? There's not any subways near it on the other end.
Yep.
But there is a city bike dock right there next to the ferry terminal on the other end.
So why is city bike so good and so well run? Because New York City, basically, while it technically a private company runs it, New York City...
It just got bought by Lyft.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
New York City came down on this thing like a hammer and said, oh, you want to build this in our city? Well, you got to follow our rules. And they're basically running it like it's an extension of the subway.
They just put it everywhere. It's everywhere. It's spread. It's not really everywhere, but they spread it.
It is, in fact, in my raccoon wounds.
They spread it a whole bunch. You can't walk without seeing one. The docks have a ton of bikes on them.
When I bike to work, I see easily hundreds of people on city bikes also biking to work. Granted, I bike to work on my actual bike because I have a bike.
Yeah, I have one too.
And I have a bike room at my office
I won't use city bike to go all the way to work, but like if maybe I take the subway to work and then I take the subway here to do a podcast and then I'll use city bike to go home.
Exactly. I've even paid one-offs
I'm not going to
occasionally.
use a city bike to go home today because I have my real bike here.
Yeah, yep.
One of them.
And also, it makes it really accessible to people who can't afford to own a bike, people who live in apartments too small to have bikes, or
People
just
who don't want to worry about their bike getting stolen.
Yep. People who just didn't bring their bike today and now it's nice out.
That's me.
That is often me.
Right. So the idea, see, the thing is, you can see how when you had this business model of you own stuff and then people pay a fee to have access to the stuff whenever, it can totally work. But different companies keep implementing it in ways that are slightly or very, very evil, right? So,
Well, I think this comes down to regulation.
Yeah.
The only reason the New York one works so well is that the city heavily regulates it.
right, we talked about the gyms and how they do, and that's only slightly sketchy, right? It's like it's your fault for buying a gym membership and not using it. But, they could remind you that you're not using it and tell you to cancel, but they're not going to do that, right?
Yep.
But then you get the companies like the Uber who take it to the maximum evil, where it's like you're sharing this car, this chauffeur.
You're sharing this exploited chauffeur.
It's a chauffeur and a car, and people are sharing it, right? It's the same idea, except, they pay the chauffeur basically nothing.
Yep. And they ignore regulations, and there's all sorts of problems.
Yep.
So the other thing about these city bikes is that they have docks. They're like a subway station or a bus stop. There's a dock, and the bikes
your trip has to start and end at one of these locations. Otherwise, you get charged an arm and a leg for holding the bike too long. And you have to, if you're a tourist, you got to dock every 30 minutes. So you can go for more than 30 minutes, even without paying again. You just have to dock and then take another bike or the same bike again. If you're not a tourist, you pay the annual fee. You can do 45 minutes, but then you got to dock and then take a bike out.
And frankly, you're not riding this more than 45 minutes.
Right. Well, they're doing it to make sure. Why did they do this? To make sure that you don't bike way far away from the docks.
Yep.
You got to keep it in the system relatively.
Oh, and if you don't leave the bike in a dock and it gets stolen, they charge you like thousands of
Well, I mean,
dollars.
if you don't dock within 45 minutes, you just start racking up the fees. And if you never put it in a dock again, you can get charged $1,200.
Yep.
So don't fuck it up.
So there's all these startups. And
Whenever
all
I slam the bike in the dock, I always wait for the notification that it was confirmed docked before I walk away.
So there's all these startups and things trying to do like more clever bike shares. Scooter share is a thing now, or electric bike shares.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them are ignoring regulations. Like if someone tries to do an electric bike share in New York, electric bikes are illegal here anyway.
Yep.
So that won't fly. But
There's arguments to be made about whether they should be and stuff like that. But
I think they should be, but they should be heavily regulated.
Mm-hmm.
So then there's these companies like Lime and Jump that are basically trying to do the same thing. Depending on the city, they're doing it without the city's permission.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just leaving bikes around with no docks that have like GPS trackers and self-locking hubs. And they just leave them on the fucking sidewalk. And if you buy their app, you use their app, you can just leave the bike wherever. They'll just take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like what's happening is people are just picking these bikes up and throwing them in dumpsters, leaving them in people's lawns, just leaving them all over the place. Some cities are actually just rounding them up and throwing them away like garbage because the companies never got permission to actually do anything.
Yeah, it's like, what's this random bike just sitting here on the sidewalk that doesn't belong here? It's taking up sidewalk space, right? And the thing is, what they're doing, really that's wrong, is it's not that, your bike share doesn't have this docking mechanism. It's like, that's not really the problem.
Yep.
The problem is that you're putting this bike on a sidewalk that is public property and using that public property as the land of your private business without compensating for it or getting permission, and you're just getting in everyone's way. It's like, if you want to set up, a little vending stand on the sidewalk, there's a whole bunch of rules about that because you're taking up this public space for your private business and your private profit. You're not buying real estate or renting commercial real estate. It's like I can't just go outside and just set up a studio in the public park and be like, oh, it's mine now. This is my space now. It's like, no, it's not your land. It's public land. So when you put your dockless bikes out there, you're putting them on this public land. It don't belong there. You didn't, you're not compensating the public for your use of that land for a profit. Get the fuck out. But the docks, even though they're, taking up this space, it's like, well, the DOT said you could. They specifically got rid of parking spaces to put docks there.
But more importantly, by regulating them heavily, the city's basically treating them like infrastructure. And as a result, they get the right level of attention, respect, regulation, and control to make sure that the system serves the purpose of bettering the lives of the people in the place, as opposed to monetizing some startup that's paying its employees probably in stock.
Yeah, so the DOT in New York City they actually are going to legalize and give permission to the dockless ones.
But it looks like they're
in
doing
the
it.
far out neighborhoods.
They're doing it the same way they did with the green cabs. If you don't know, in New York, yellow cabs are the real regular cabs. They work like normal cabs.
They have medallions. You should not get in a cab that is not yellow.
Nope. But well, you can get in a green one.
Yes.
Because the green ones have
if the green one will let you in.
The green ones are special. They work totally like a normal cab in New York, except they cannot pick anyone up in Manhattan.
Yep. And they can't pick you up in an airport either.
Yep. But it costs way less to ride them and way less to get a license for them.
Right. So if you want to drive a yellow cab, it needs to have this medallion on it, and the price of the medallions have gone way down because of Uber being evil.
Yep.
But the yellow cabs are legit, so you shouldn't ride any Ubers or Lyfts or any of that garbage. You should get a yellow or green one. But if you're in Manhattan, a green one can't turn on the meter because it's GPS locked not to work when the car is in Manhattan. They can drive you to Manhattan. They just can't drive you when they're already in Manhattan.
Yep.
But the idea was, well, look, there's people who need a cab who are in Queens, the Bronx, Brooklyn, far away. No yellow cabs are coming over there, even though they come near me. And those people need rides, and there's not enough yellow cabs, so we'll allow pretty much anyone to make a green cab, but we'll make it so the green ones don't compete with the yellow ones, and such and such.
Yep. So in terms of car shares, because I've talked about this before. I used to use Zipcar. I ditched it because it's garbage now. But the reason car shares have really failed to work in major cities.
Mm-hmm.
Like
And
every
they
time.
definitely can't work in a suburb. Everyone has a fucking car.
Yep, you have to have a car to live in the suburb. The only people who don't have cars in the suburbs are the kinds of people.
And even if you do live in a suburb without a car, how are you going to get to the bike share? To the car share. You're going to bike there? It's far away.
Yep. And also, I suspect the people who live in the burbs and don't have cars are too poor for the company that's running the car share to be able to successfully exploit them.
Mm-hmm.
So in the city, the car share was great because the only reason anyone in New York wants a car share is to be able to rent a car to leave the city for a weekend without having to talk to a human being.
Right. There's no way. If you live in the city, you don't need a car, except when you're going on a somewhat longish trip. You don't need it within the city. We have public transportation.
Yep.
We got bike. We got all this other stuff.
And if you're going to another city, you don't need it. You just fly or take an Amtrak.
Right, or a bus.
Yeah.
If you're going from a major city to a major city, you don't need a car. The times you need the car is when you live in the city and you're going to a suburb. Like, oh, I'm gonna go on a trip to the woods, or something like that. And the train doesn't go where I'm going. I need to go visit someone who lives out in Long Island, and they're not near the Long Island Railroad, and it would take me 4 hours to bike there. And if I took the Long Island Railroad, I'd have to take a cab from the train station to them anyway. That's when you need a car for someone who lives in the city. So that's when you want one. It's only in those occasions.
But a car
usually you're going to end up taking the car on Friday after work and bringing it back late on Sunday.
Yep. So no one can make money having car shares in the cities because, one, no one really needs a car for like a couple hours in the city unless they're moving, in which case they probably just rent a moving van.
Right. So you basically, all the cars that would be shared would be sitting there unused Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
They disappear on the weekends.
And then on Friday, there wouldn't be enough of them, right? Because they're taking up space. Like that parking spaces cost them money, right? The cars just sitting there cost them money. They're not being used. You're losing money every day of the week. Those cars just sitting there.
Because they're not integrated into the transport system of the city.
The city bikes outside are constantly going in and out, in and out, in and out. All the data's public. You can look at every city bike ride and see how they get used a ton. These cars are sitting there 5 days of the week, not making any money, and then all of them get used exactly once for 3 days. That's when all the money comes in, and then they get parked again.
Now you'd think, because I remember when they first did it, they put these zip cars at a lot of the Metro North stations way up north. The idea being you come out of the city, you pick up the zip car, do your thing, whatever you're doing upstate in the woods, and bring the zip car back to the train station when you're done. But even then, that wasn't enough, because most of the people who need a car in that situation tend to drive it somewhere and want to leave it there, like for their commute, which again is not part of the transit system, so it won't actually work, and you can't easily monetize it. Mm-hmm. And on top of all that, Uber and cabs seem to have filled the gap of someone needs a car to take them somewhere. It's easier to take your evil Uber to the Costco and from the Costco than it is to rent a car from a car share to do it yourself.
Yep. So I think what you have to do to make this work is you would need to find some other way to make money from those cars Monday through Friday, right? Maybe get someone...
Shitty hotels. You can sleep in them.
No.
For $40 a night.
I think what you could do is you could have people do, Uber type driving with those cars Monday through Friday, and then on Friday, that driver has to park the car by a certain time, maybe like 2 or 3. And then it becomes rented to the person who's going to take it out of the city, and they had to bring it back by Sunday, and then Sunday night, then the person can start driving it again.
But here's the problem with that.
For hire.
The thing, city bike, irrespective of its monetization, because I'd be fine if the city just ran it for free with our tax dollars.
Sure, why not?
But
it's the same either way.
It achieves a meta purpose of adding more transportation to the city. Like it improves the quality of life of people in the city. Anything that puts more cars on the road decreases the quality of life of people in the city.
Right. Well, I think the idea is that hopefully this would decrease cars on the road if it works, because you have cabs driving everywhere already, right?
Yep.
So this is that Uber driver is just replacing it's already an Uber driver who's just going to be doing this instead and isn't going to work on the weekend, right? And then there's someone out there in the city who owns a car and only uses it a few weekends, and all the other weekends it's parked and not moving all the rest of the time.
Well,
maybe you can convince that person, if this exists and there's actually enough cars and the price is right, that they could sell their car and then use this instead, and that would decrease the total number of cars, because just one of these shared cars could replace how many owned cars that are only used on the weekends.
But at the same time, another way you could go is the model of people who own cars and use them usually could go into some sort of compact with other people, like timeshares on their own cars. That's a model people have tried with.
That is something people have tried. The problem is people who own cars, for some reason, don't like other people driving them.
Which I can see.
Even if there's all kinds of insurance and stuff, it's like,
I've seen the way other people drive, and if I owned a car, I would never let fucking anyone drive it.
But I mean, even if it's no skin off your back, if they crash, insurance just buys you a new car. It's not your fault.
Oh yeah, true. But then I don't
just set it up right that
I might not have the car right after they crashed it, or they might make it smell like pee.
Yep. Well, insurance has to cover all those, handle all those problems.
Yeah, because one problem with all the city bikes and those kinds of bike shares is that they are treated with the same respect that people here treat the subway. There's a reason they're 55 pounds, because otherwise they would all have been destroyed.
Yeah. I haven't seen people vandalize city bikes.
No.
Why don't
Early on, when they first appeared, there was a bunch of vandals, and then it just sort of stopped.
I feel like what we could do is take a city bike, and then we've got, we can, if we keep docking it and undocking it, we can just paint it real nice. Not put an artwork on it and then put it back. Unauthorized.
But I mean, that's technically vandalism, but
yeah. I mean, a lot of street art is that kind of vandalism.
That is true. All right, I think we killed enough time. I'm
okay,
hungry.
good. I'm also.
All right. Yep. They're getting dinner at some Japanese place.